All right, you guys, it's 10:02. I think I'm going to go ahead and start. So first of all, I'm Tom Crennan, and we've got some other people on the call here from my office. Robert Bates, Sarah, and Sean Burke, and Tommy are all on here, so we can help you out. These are people that you'll talk to when you work with us on things, so that's great. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to figure this thing out. So this is fantastic. I'm just going to jump in and start going for it. So this is a refresher class. I'm going to kind of tell everybody what's going to go on. So we're going to talk about ICHRAs in general, just kind of how they work. Then we're going to talk about how ICHRAs work on the ICHRAsystems software to actually set them up and run them. And then we're going to spend the last third of the class talking about rates, the kind of new rates that have come out and how things look. So this meeting is being recorded, so we'll try to send this meeting out to everybody that maybe missed it here. So let's see, this should go forward. Okay. So if you've seen my presentation in the past, this is an old slide, but ICHRAs are just a concept started in 2020. It says basically the employees can buy individual policies. The employer can pay for those policies. You can also include Medicare, and it ends up being an ERISA-based group policy, and they're really flexible. They're very interesting in how many different things you can do with an ICHRA that you can't do with traditional group. So I mean, we'll get into it, so I'll just go through it one by one, but that's kind of it. So one of the big things of ICHRAs is no more one size fits all. So if you offer an ICHRA to a group, and it depends what area you're in as to which individual carriers you have to offer. But let's say you're in Denver, you could have some people do Kaiser, some people do Anthem, some people do Rocky Mountain Health Plan, some people do Cigna, and Denver Health, Select Health. I think I mentioned Rocky Mountain Health Plans. And anyway, you've got all these different carriers, and they can find the doctor they want, and they can find whatever coverage they want. So you have a tremendous amount of choice going on with an ICHRA that you don't have with traditional group policies, but they really are a group policy. ICHRAs have 10 defined classes, and so you can split people into full-time or part-time. So you can offer an ICHRA to full-time people, to part-time people. You can offer it to salaried and non-salaried hourly. You can split those into two different groups. So you might say for your salaried people, which people want to call management, but really isn't management, but that's typically the way it gets split, is salaried or kind of management. Non-management is usually considered the hourly people. You can offer them different company contributions. So that's really what ICHRAs are all about. They're basically about how much does the company contribute to the employee's plan, and the employee's share of the cost of those plans can be taken out of their payroll tax-free. So you get the advantage of tax-free. It's just like regular group plan. Everything about the plan can be deducted by the business, and the employee's portion is taken out of their payroll tax-free. So that's what makes ICHRAs. It makes individual policies tax-free to people on things. So there's kind of unique ones, collective bargaining units. If you have a union or something like that, you can put an ICHRA in place for them. You can do it for just seasonal employees. You can do temporary employees of a staffing firm, foreign employees abroad, which I don't totally understand that one. I would assume that would be an ICHRA where a foreign company wants to insure some people here in the United States, and employees in the waiting period there. And so that's kind of what's going on. It's a little bit tricky on this, and in just a second, I'm going to look through it. So it looks like somebody might have their microphone on here, but anyway, these ones with the asterisk ones here. Hey, Sarah, could you mute everybody maybe, just because I'm getting a little bit of feedback, but so the ones with an asterisk are a little bit tricky. Like if it's just an ICHRA to an ICHRA, there's no big problem on things. If Sorry about that. I guess I got muted on things. So hopefully I'm back here. Um, so what I was saying is you can mix any amount of ICHRAs together with a group. So you can have full-time, part-time, salary, non-salary, and all those people can be on an ICHRA, and that's not a problem. But if you want to mix it with a traditional group policy, let's say you have somebody on a United Healthcare group policy for the management, and you want to take the other salaried people and put them on an ICHRA, it requires that you have at least 10 people on each one of those. So just kind of know that on things, okay? So, the big picture is just give us a call. If you have any questions on this stuff as you're doing, we'll go through and walk you through it. But basically, just know that full-time, part-time, salaried, non-salaried, hourly, and same geographic area, if you're going to mix it with a traditional group, you have to have at least 10 in each one of those groups. And those are just the rules on it. But if it's ICHRA to ICHRA, you can have any number of people. You can do an ICHRA down to one person. So you can do a one-person ICHRA all day long. Collective bargaining agreements, we went through this. Temporary employees of the staffing firm, foreign employees, foreign employees in waiting period. And you can do any combination of those. So that's what's going on there. Okay. What plans can be used with an ICHRA? So people sometimes want to say, well, I want to do a health sharing ministry plan. I want to use a minimum essential coverage plan and pair it with an ICHRA and have the employer pay for it, or even these, concierge doctors type things. And although some of those, can be done maybe in other ways, ICHRAs can only be used with ACA individual plans, either on or off the exchange, but generally off the exchange. And I'll get into that for what the reasons for that are. But generally, family individual ACA plans, they have to be true Obamacare plans. And then they can also be used with Medicare. So if you have a family out there and maybe the wife and kids are younger, but the husband is, let's say, Medicare age, you can put the husband on Medicare and the kids on a regular individual plan, and the company can contribute towards that, and the employee share of that cost is still all tax-free. So that's what makes them really flexible on things. So that's great. So you can do that. You can also there's nothing that says that if you have an ICHRA, you can't do like a traditional group dental or vision plan, which a lot of times the traditional group dental plans will make more sense than individual dental plans. So just kind of know that. So they don't exclude other things. They are true group insurance, just like other things. This is kind of the example I talked about where you have maybe one guy who has a young family, you can split them up. It's something you can't do with traditional group right now. And it's really huge savings. What we're seeing is just fantastic savings for people that are using ICHRAs. And I'll get into the rates. The rates look super good for 2025. So if the ICHRA looked good in 2024, it's going to typically look even better in 2025. So anyway, get into that a little bit. This is employee options here. This is another thing. I don't want to make it sound too confusing, but ICHRAs these are still the same options for people on traditional group, but we address them differently. So if you offer people, employees in ICHRA, they can accept any individual plan and the company has a contribution. The company will contribute so much of the money. The company technically doesn't have to contribute anything. There's no requirements for how much the company has to contribute, but they can pick a plan and whatever the plan costs them can be taken out of their payroll tax-free. So that's a nice benefit. If you're eligible to go to Medicare, people can go to Medicare and the ICHRA can still reimburse the employee for that Medicare. And then you can waive the plan. Let's say a spouse has coverage through their spouse, or let's say an employee has coverage through their spouse. You can go and waive that plan. And some employers will do something like pay the employee $100 or $200 to waive off the plan so that they're not double covered. So that's kind of the three things you can do just as a traditional group plan. But if they do want to waive and the ICHRA is considered unaffordable, and we'll get into this a little bit, You can always have them go to Connect for Health Colorado and get a tax credit plan if the ICHRA is unaffordable, and we'll get into that. They can always go to Medicaid if they're very low income. You know, there's Health First Colorado, and then there's CHP Plus. These are true traditional group plans also, but this one's a little bit more unusual. It's not that people can't do that with traditional group plans. It has the same rules for affordability, or it's calculated a little differently. But because they're already in and looking at individual plans under our system, they can put in how much income they have, and it will automatically tell them if they qualify for individual plans on the exchange, and it will show them those plans and show them what they will cost. So that's kind of a huge feature on being able to really, you know, get things, get the cost for groups way down. So it's a little bit of a complicated area. We'll walk through it. I think we're going to have another seminar that's kind of advanced ICHRAs that we'll get into it a little bit more. Affordability is calculated just a little bit differently for ICHRAs, because typically affordability for a group is determined by the lowest cost plan that the group offers. Well, since members can choose whatever plan they want, what they have determined for ICHRAs is they look at the lowest cost silver plan offered by the exchange is considered the benchmark plan. And I think for 2025 or 2024, this got down to like 8.63%. So basically their income, 8.63% of their plan won't cover this, the amount of that plan that is considered unaffordable. Our system does it all automatically, so you don't have to worry about the numbers on that. I'm going to go over ICHRA pros and cons a little bit, just what people like and don't like about them. Pros, you can create an employer-employee savings. So there's ICHRAs out there that are saving people a tremendous amount of money on their plans. People like the flexible design. We run into groups where maybe they're, not to pick on Kaiser, but maybe they're a Kaiser group and not everybody wants Kaiser. You can put an ICHRA into place. The Kaiser people can still pick Kaiser. The people that want a different plan that their doctor might be in can pick that plan, and that's proven to be real popular. So employees are allowed to pick the plan. And a plus, which is also, you know, maybe a plus or minus for the broker, is that they get a lot of one-on-one attention. So if you're enrolling a group of 10, you'll usually need to talk to all 10 of those people to help them out a little bit on picking a plan. Sometimes it's just a matter of matching doctors. Sometimes they just want some general guidance on things. But I mean, it's good for the employee. It creates a good bond for them, and it makes them feel like they're really getting a benefit because they help choose what's going on. Some of the cons are no individual PPOs in Colorado. We argue, and I think that is a true con, that no PPO, because there's some people who live in 2 different states, and a PPO would be really handy. Can't do that with an ICHRA, but it's fairly rare. Usually people live in one state or another. If they live in a different state, one of the big features that actually saves money on ICHRAs is they can simply buy an individual policy in their state and have coverage that fits them. And it's really much less expensive. You know, PPOs are expensive. So if you have a person buy an HMO individual plan in their state, it's probably going to be less than the PPO option would have been if you did them on a group policy. So it ends up offering a lot of cost savings because they can get the plan they want in their local area. But again, if you have a person that lives in a couple states, you know, part of the time in California and part in Denver, they don't have PPO, so they would only have emergency and urgent care coverage in those out-of-state areas. The other thing to just keep in mind is that even though they're a group plan, and there could be there's some exceptions to this. Kaiser, I think, is an exception. If they had a Kaiser group plan, I think their deductibles could be carried over to a Kaiser individual plan. But for most carriers, there's going to be no mid-year deductible carryover. Unless you stayed with the same carrier, you might be able to work something out on it. But generally speaking, you're not going to have a deductible carryover if you flip in the middle of the year. And ICHRAs can be started because they're a true group policy. They can be started any time of the year. So all year long, you can offer people an ICHRA and start one up at any time. And there are some moving parts. We'll go through this thing. It's a fairly complete presentation, and there's definitely moving parts to ICHRAs. They take a while to get used to. There's kind of different strategies. So there's a bunch of different ICHRA administrators. I mean, they definitely caught on. And there's plan document focused people. There's people, I would say, like Basic, Task, Ameriflex. that will just kind of do things like give you plan documents, and then you have to kind of do all the different pieces. There's lots of compliance with them. They will be fairly inexpensive. On the first look, I will tell you that ICHRAsystems, we charge $15 per member per month for the enrolled employees, and that includes everything, including a ton of compliance. So sometimes, if you really look at the overall costs, ICHRAsystems will actually be less money than even just a plan documents, where the employers just decided they're going to kind of do it all themselves, and maybe the broker helps them out on picking plans, or maybe they don't even, technically they don't need a broker if they want to do it that way. They just tell their employees to go buy their own plans and then do all their own administration. It can be tough. There's TPA focused ones, and there's kind of the big boys like Take Command Health, Next Band. There's a number of them out there that have really gotten big, and one of the plus minuses with them is that they will typically do enroll the employees themselves, with them being as agent of record. So they will do the work, they will sign the agents up for you, and they will work with brokers to a certain degree to possibly give you a referral fee. So, and I'm not knocking them, but I think the real advantage, ICHRAsystems is the last one of these. We are broker focused. So every ICHRA policy that's been done has been sold by a broker, by the broker that runs it. We do have some referral programs where people will help each other out on things. So we can do it where you can have another broker sign them up, but basically there's this very strong one-to-one relationship of a broker with the group. So when there's a problem or somebody needs help, they go directly to that broker, typically a local broker here in their area, and that broker can know the plans and help them out. And I'm obviously a big fan of it. So that's what ICHRAsystems is about. It's about helping brokers sell ICHRAs where they want to be the broker on it, or at least they want to be in very close contact with the broker that's on it. So that's kind of what's going on with that. So those are the different approaches that people are taking towards ICHRAs. They all have plus and minuses. This is employer contribution strategies. This talks a little bit about how much can employers basically pay. Number one, generous. Some employers are amazing. They just say, we'll pay for everything, 100%. If you have a case where they pay for everything 100%, you can enroll them on the exchange if you prefer. Silver plans are not best enrolled on the exchange, but you can enroll them on the exchange because some people find that they're more used to enrolling people on the exchange. And if they're paying 100% of everything, it's not really a problem. The problem comes when the employee, let's say the employer pays $250 and the employee pays the remainder of the plan. You want to do those direct because the portion that the employee pays can't be tax-free unless you do it direct. You can't have it be tax-free if you do them on the exchange. So just kind of know that that's what goes on. So some employers are super generous and they just pay for everything. I mean, we're seeing a lot of policies where people are switching and they're getting around 20% savings on their plan, and some people say, well, that's great, I'll just pay for everything. Some people in trades where they don't maybe make as much money will just do a minimal amount on there. Like sometimes they'll even offer it to part-time employees, and on the part-time employees, what they're really doing is they're just kind of helping them out, take it out of their payroll, make sure they're actually covered, and they get paid for it tax-free. They may contribute very little towards the employee. Even nothing is allowed. But and then you get into this, another contribution is called ALEs, so applicable large employers, companies with over 50 full-time equivalent employees. They are required to offer minimum essential coverage in order to avoid this Part A penalty. I think Part A penalty is, I don't know, it's $3,800 or something like that. It just keeps going up, $3,800 for every employee in the group, less 30, I think. But anyway, it's a big penalty. And so to avoid that, they can just offer an ICHRA, and that wipes out that penalty. And they don't even have to contribute anything for it. So whereas some people will offer MEC plans just to avoid penalties, you can offer an ICHRA for zero cost, basically, in those cases, avoid the Part A penalty. And then if you want to make it affordable, we'll get into that. They can contribute enough to make it affordable. The advanced class that we're going to do is going to talk all about affordability standards and MECs and applicable large employers. It's really, and we're happy to help you out, but it's a really fairly complex field on how much you want to set your reimbursement for. It's also probably the area where large employers can see the most savings. If you have kind of a cost-conscious large employer, it's a bit of a generalization, but typically you can save them a ton by going to an ICHRA. So, and still keep their penalties down to a minimum. So, okay, affordable, optimized to create best outcome for employer and employee. I think this is where most people are. Most people, pay for about 70% of a person's plan, and then they pay for about 30% of it. Some are more generous than that, but the system is set up to do that. We have two different types of contributions. You can do age-banded reference-based contributions. So you can say, I'm going to pay 70% of the lowest silver plan, and that's going to be by age. So the younger people, their cost for their plan is less, so they'll get less of a contribution. The older people will get more because they're older, their premiums are higher, and it's actually my favorite way to do it. Sometimes for simplicity, some people keep it real simple. If everybody in the group is about the same age and you just want to keep it simple, you can say, well, I'll give everybody $300 a month. You can go buy your own plan. It's easy to understand. I just don't like it as much for when you have groups that have some old people, some young people. It tends to just not be very fair to the it kind of cheats the older people and overly compensates the younger people. But anyway, it's just like regular group. Employers can contribute to just the employee only, or they can go with the family members, the whole family. They can contribute any amount they want, and it's a fixed sum, and then the members pick whatever plan they want on things. But if you look at the, I don't know, if you do employee only, contribute that does allow, if you have a lower paid group and you do employee only, that does allow the family members to go to the exchange and get a tax credit policy if that works. And then there's different class determinations. You can give different amounts of money based off the different classes. And we kind of went over those 10 different classes on things. So I kind of alluded to this a little bit. There's lump sum. So you say, well, I'm going to give everybody $250. They tend not to run quite as well. Your older employees kind of don't love it. They're simple to understand. They're okay. They're still used a fair amount. And then there's reference-based pricing, which is the trend that everybody's going to. So you basically get a better, the older and younger employees basically get a little closer look as to what they're doing on things, and it works out a little bit better. Then ICHRAs are pretty new, started out in 2020. When the ICHRAs first started out, people kind of saw them as a reimbursement plan. They're going like, oh, well, this is an ICHRA. I'll just let the employees go out and buy their own plans, and then I will reimburse them for that. And what's happened is that over time, you can still do that, and sometimes you have to do that for things like Medicare. And it sounded kind of simple, but it has a whole bunch of problems. The employees go like, if they're insuring a family and the premium's like $1,800, they're going like, well, I don't have $1,800 to pay for this family policy and then hope to get reimbursed on it. So you end up getting real low compliance. And then a lot of times in families that don't have a lot of money will just say, well, I can't afford the $1,800 this month. Their policy lapses. It's so much better if you can do it where the employer pays the policy. So that's kind of the standard these days, is the employer pays the policy. It makes it much easier for tax reasons. There's a built-in Section 125 plan. The employee's portion of it, which is hopefully much less than the full premium, comes out of their paycheck tax-free. So anyway, we're a big fan of having the employer pay for the policy and have the employee's share come out of payroll. We have a system in here for larger groups. So when you start getting to groups like, I don't know, 15, I would say 10, 15, 20, over that, certainly groups of 50, things like that, it gets confusing. We typically set it up so that the employees are paid for on the employer's, the business account. So they're just set up through electronic funds transfer, and the money just comes right out of the employer's account. And that works just fine if you got a group of 5 or 6 or even 10. It's pretty easy to keep track of who, what, when on that one. You start getting into more employers, and when they get pulled out of the employer's bank account, they usually don't have a whole lot of information. It'll say something like, this is from Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield, and it'll give an amount of the premium, but it won't have the name of the employee next to it. So it ends up being kind of hard to reconcile. Sometimes if it's a smaller group and you got some in Cigna, some in Kaiser, some in Rocky, it's pretty easy to figure out, who's who on that thing. So it's not too bad. You start getting into bigger groups, and we recommend using a platform that we work with, Echo, who's been really good. And what you can do with them, Echo is actually used by a bunch of ICHRA administrators, but the employer has a banking arrangement that basically says with Echo, and it says, Echo never really is in a liability position. You put into the system how much each one of the policies are going to cost, so it knows how much it's expecting money to come out of this account. So Echo's like their own bank account. And they do both banking, they have bank accounts and credit cards, and they defer mostly to credit cards on things. And so you would pay the policies, pay the individual policies by credit card, which pretty much everybody takes credit card except Cigna in Colorado. And so what happens is you get this, and let's say it ends up being $10,000 when everything adds up. The Echo system will sweep the $10,000 out of the employer's account, and then it will pay each one of those policies. And when you set those policies up, you'll know exactly who it is and exactly when. It's almost real time. It's overnight. It will tell you when the policy has been paid for. So that's kind of what's going on with it. So we really like Echo. It's greater for bigger systems. They can do either credit cards or checks. And it automatically knows whether the carrier that you're doing will take credit cards or checks or both. It's typically zero cost. I bill it as a zero cost premium. There's a little bit to set it up, but for larger groups, it will save your sanity because it's really easy to see if a policy goes unpaid. You can look at them each month, and you can see exactly when the policy is paid, and if somebody doesn't get paid, you can figure it out, and it can save you a ton of headaches. You will make a little bit of money as a broker on everyone that's a credit card, and you will lose, I believe it's $4 a month for everyone that's a bank account. So you actually stand the chance of making a little money by setting up Echo. So that's kind of an interesting feature. And again, it doesn't cost the employer anything. So it doesn't cost the employer anything, and you as the broker might make a little bit of money out. Is kind of the way it works.
Hey, Tom, just on that Echo, one other benefit is the simplicity of stopping a employer's payments for a departing employee. That's very simple under Echo.
Right, and that's a big deal. One of the things that we'll get into a little bit is when an employee leaves an ICHRA plan, what do? You cut off the payment for the auto pay by the employer, and then you send them a COBRA notice and give them an option to get a different plan. But anyway, let me jump back to plan documents here on things. So these are all the different parts of an ICHRA here. So there's a 90-day notice with reimbursement amounts. So this 90-day notice can be generated on ICHRAsystems super quickly, like almost instantly. And that's the document you can use, you give to the carrier when you're signing up an employee in the middle of the year. You can give them the 90-day let's say it's Anthem, you give them the 90-day notice. They use that as the SEP, so that allows you to sign up people all throughout the year on things. And then there's a resolution to adopt, there's a plan document, there's a summary plan description, there's a section 125 plan, there's an annual attestation for the ICHRA. There's a monthly attestation if you do monthly withdrawals. If you do a reimbursement plan, you have to do monthly attestation. There's a COBRA notice, there's PCORI fees, and there are Form 1095s and 1094s, B's and C's. ICHRAsystems does all of that, and they do it all at no cost, and it's done almost instantly. When a plan is set up, all the employer has to do is just sign a few documents electronically. It takes almost no time to set up all these things. So that's really a nice feature, but there is a lot of documentation required with ICHRAs, but we make it super simple on that one. This one talks a little bit about ICHRA sales cycle. So the first thing we do, and we'll show you through, is to get the company census, kind of makes sense for a group. There's a link that is part of ICHRAsystems. You can just send them the link, and they will fill out the census, and it will basically build an employer portal for them. So it makes it really fast. you can get new people a ICHRA quote just really quickly. After you get the quote in, then the next step is to basically determine and optimize the employer contribution. And I'll show you, we have tools on there. You can run various contribution scenarios and you can show them their maximum liability on things. And what you'll find, because ICHRA's, some people can go to Medicare, some people can go to the exchange, and basically individual policies in general are about 20% cheaper than group right now. You'll see these huge savings for groups. So that's kind of what's going on. So after the employer determines what their contribution level is going to be, and the employer agrees that, yeah, this is what we want to do, then you can show the employee the options. And we have an electronic enrollment system that takes care of that. And then they'll see all their options. We can talk to them about, hey, this plan might be better for you because it has your doctors. And then it will automatically create and adjust payroll detail, which then you take this report and give it to the payroll people, and then they adjust the payroll for people as to how much they would take out tax-free. And then they renew January 1st because they're individual policies, and you're supposed to give them a 90-day notice. It's 90-day notice on this is controversial because nobody really has the rates firm enough for 90-day notice to really do it. So now there's these kind of temporary 90-day notices where people are saying, like, when we get the rates, we'll let you, we'll figure things out. But just know that. So that's kind of the sales cycle on it. I wanted to give you a big picture on it. So this is ICHRAsystems. There's kind of two sides. There's ICHRAsystems and ICQuotes. ICHRAsystems is for brokers. And like here's a video that talks about how the ecosystem works. Here's a heat map for 2024. We're going to build a new heat map for 2025. There's some certification. You don't have to be certified. If you want to, there's about 3 hours worth of classes on here. The referral program is something that's still in the fledgling. Referral fees we're still working out our referral program. We can definitely work with people on that one. But there's all kinds of things on this website that are basically educational and can help you for the broker. And then we're going to jump into it. So the very first thing that a broker does, it's actually jumping around here a little bit, but one of these, basically you can create a broker referral page right here. We'll help you do that. But what you're doing is you're creating a broker portal. So there's basically two main portals to think about. There's the broker portal, which is where you keep track of all of your groups that you have. And it's going to show you every ICHRA group that's on ICHRAsystems. And you can easily get in there and see what's going on, add employees. It also has this little area in pink up here that tells you if there's anybody out there that's submitted their application that you need to get enrolled. So it alerts you there. It also sends you emails and all kinds of stuff. But you can set this up. This is the things. There's a link right here that's part of your employer portal. This is the link I was talking about. It's a little bit long here. You can copy that link. You can email it to a new client, and we'll get into it a little bit later, but they will be able to set up the whole group on their own very quickly. So it's really easy to set up new employers, and it will automatically create, an employer portal form. So this is a list. We'll get into this a little bit, but there's brokers are allowed to charge fees on top of the commissions. So brokers can earn commissions on the individual policies, and they can earn a fee for administering the policy. And you can set that fee up for each one of the different employers individually, and you can do it custom here. And there's also a default button, so when it will set up automatically. You can also help them out. There's a button here for Warner Census. If you want to get them a group quote, it will take their census and it'll put it in a format so you can get a Warner quote if you want. There's an employer password. If they forgot their password for whatever reason, you can click on here and send them their password. And there's a payment method, which is usually the employer's bank account for things. And that's how you set the policies up. So that's what that's about. Yeah, this is just me pointing out that link. This is the link that's on there. That's the one that's very handy for getting groups started. This is a view of the bottom of that page. There's a edit default carrier fees. If you want to set that up and talk to us, that's where you go in and you set up how much all your fees you want to be. This is how you just click on this button. This is how you get into the various employer things. This is a copy of the fees. You can see we have all the different carriers. I guess we can get rid of some of them like Bright Hill. But you can basically, if there's some reason you just didn't want to quote one of the carriers on your system, you can actually turn it off. If there, which I don't think is true for any of them now, but if there was like maybe in the past one that wasn't paying commissions, you could add a broker fee and it would do that automatically for you on things. It also gives you the ability as the people enroll, it will determine if they're Medicare eligible or can be on the exchange. If you have a different person in your office that maybe handles exchange people, you can set it up so that you can put their information in there so that if it's on the exchange, it'll actually, can be a different broker that helps them with the exchange. If it determines that they're Medicaid, which it will, it has the ability that the member can put in their income and it'll determine if they could go to Medicaid. You can send them to Medicaid if you want to. So there's some interesting features on that, on what the system will do for you. This is kind of, remember that link I was telling you about? You send somebody a link, you can just email them this link. It will be directly, this is our sample group, Robert Golden with Robert Golden Insurance Agency in Golden, Colorado. This is just our dummy group that we use. And it will send them a link. They'll click on this link and it will look like this. They need to put in their company name, their zip code, contact name, phone number, email address. Oops. And then down here, it's a little hard to see. It comes up with a default, but they need to come up with a company contribution strategy. We just have one by default. That one can be easily changed later. And so they pick that. And then down here, they just put in the employee name, the zip code. It's optional, but if they put in the family income, if they know roughly what they're going to make, it will do these calculations to determine whether they'd be better off on the exchange or whether they'd be better off on ICHRA. And then you just put in all the dependents. So it's really nice as far as getting a group done very quickly. We also have the ability to import censuses. If you already have a census, it will just, you can go in there and set them up really easily by just importing the census. It's a very flexible system. This is the other portal. I talked about broker portals on things. So you've got broker portals. This is the employer portal. So when they put that information in the quote there, it generates this employer portal. So it'll pop up under you as your agent broker portal. You'll see a new line pop up with the name of their company. And then you would get into the employer portal. And once you're into the employer portal, you can see how everything's set up. So the top part of it here, so it's kind of a one-page approach for everything you have to do with ICHRA, although there's lots of branches on it. But the top part here is just the company information. It is interesting. There's a zip code up here for the company, this 80461 in this case. This is dependent. This is interesting because if you're doing reference-based pricing, it bases it off that zip code. It's going to reference off that zip code. And we can talk about that if it gets into it. There's also where you put in the name of the employer. You're already set up here as the broker, but the name of the employer, this is pretty interesting. This email address here that you put in for here. When somebody signs up, both the employer and you as the broker get an email automatically saying this person signed up. So the employer can see this portal, you can see the portal, and both employer and brokers are notified through emails when things happen on this portal here. So if you come down here, this is the company information. And then you pick what year it is. It's going to default to 2024. We're going to get into it later with the 2025 rates, but we do have preliminary 2025 rates up and running. You can actually get 2025 quotes. They absolutely are preliminary. Sarah's been doing it. We've seen, I think we're on our third change that they've come out and changing the rates. They haven't really changed that much though. So I think the quotes you're going to see are going to be ballpark where they're at. They've changed a little bit, not a whole lot on things. Let me see. And then we talked about classes. So you pick out the class of who you want. So in this case, we picked salary full-time employees, and you can set up more than one employer ICHRA portal. So if you have one for full-time people and one for part-time people, you would have two different groups that you would look at because you typically have two different contribution strategies for those guys. And then you come down here. There's actually a little spot that has a employee enrollment name, and it's the username and the password. And that's used for employees. They have a portal of their own. The employees have a portal that they can get into, and that's where they enroll. They'll see all the quotes. They'll pick the plan they want. They'll give us the details, and that comes directly to you as the broker. and sends out an email and say, hey, so-and-so, John Doe signed up, go ahead and get him signed up on this plan here. So that's what's going on. But right here, this is the employer page. This is who you're covering. Down here, you can barely see it, but like in this case, it was employee-only coverage. You can do employee-only coverage, spouse, employee and children and family coverage. So kind of the standard 4-tier rates on things. I don't show it down there, but there's also, I guess I should have, but anyway, there's contribution strategies. You can tell how much you want to pay on things. You see, this is one with Mom's Flower Shop we're showing. I guess this is an old one. I don't know why that one's in there exactly. Here we go. Okay, so we've got employee only coverage, family coverage. You can do that. You can either do lump sum contribution or percentage of a reference-based plan. We like something like 80% of the lowest silver plan. That's going to be a pretty generous plan. You could do lump sum. You could just do $100 a month. You can change these and you can run what if scenarios to see how much this costs the employer. And I'll show you how to do that. You can set it up for cash in lieu of coverage. You set it up for employee payroll period. So in this case, they were paid bi-weekly. When the employee goes in to look at their plan, it will tell them not only the monthly cost, but it will tell them the per paycheck cost. You can set up waiting periods like first of the month after 60 days, just like traditional group. You come down here, we'll talk about ALEs. If you get into a group that is over 50, let's talk. It's going to be for an advanced class, but it has huge potential savings for the member. You can specify how much the people on Medicare you want to reimburse on. You can select the start date, and then the renewal date is typically always the first of the year. So this top part of the page, of the employer page, is where you set everything up, and then you want to lock that in. And over here is a preliminary census button. This is where your preliminary census is. It's kind of interesting to look at. You've got preliminary census is the people you think are going to be on the plan. Once you have those people, and once you've determined how much you're going to pay for them, you can go to this preliminary cost button, and we'll get into it, but it will do the whole analysis for the whole group and tell you what the maximum liability is for the employer. And then once you start enrolling people, this will light up pink and or red, and you'll start getting emails. This one happens to be red in this case because this person had a person they need to enroll. So you get all those people enrolled, and this goes back to blue basically. And then after you're done enrolling everybody, you give the employer enrolled payroll breakout so that they can set up how much to take out of their paychecks. There's a button down here for forms. The forms are really quite extensive. It has all the plan documents, everything you need to set up and do it. It's really fast. You click the button. There's electronic signatures for about 4 of them, three maybe. And it'll help you out get all your compliance with your documents. It's really fast. You can do the 90-day notice there. It has an automatic, nice little form you can send out to the employees to help them enroll. It's pretty slick. Premium detail just kind of shows all the premiums by the carrier so you know what's going on. This employer payment method is just a way for employers to tell you what their bank account is. And if the employers want to reset their password, if they can get on here, you can get them onto their employer page. The employers have their own login for this page. So they don't see yours as an agent, but they do see the employer page. So they can see everything that's going on with this one. So that's that. And then this is an example of the test employee. This is your preliminary census. So this is a group of 4 employees. You would go in here to view and edit to set these up. You can actually import a census if you want to. If you already have a census in an Excel spreadsheet, we can import the census. You can click here to add an employee if you want to add another employee to it. This will all automatically be set up for you when they click on that initial enrollment there. All this will be set up. Sometimes you'll set it up for just 1 employee. If it's a group of 30, you'll set it up for 1 employee, and then it'll set everything up for you. Then you come down here and you import the census, and that way it'll be all set up. But it's nice because this is where you edit each one of the members. This is where you can quote them to see, based off of the contribution strategy, how much they're going to do. And then this is a 90-day notice, which sometimes you need to get them enrolled in the middle of the year that you have to give to the carrier. So that's another nice feature. This is what the employee sees. And I think I go over this a second time here. But when the employee logs in, you can either do this. If you hit this quote button, and there's a page in between there, but it's going to know who they are because you have them all set up. And in that quote, and you'll see this again, but it's going to ask them for how much money they make, which you may have a guess at it. They may have a guess at it. If you do put an amount of money in there, it will come in here and it'll tell you if they qualify for Connect for Health Colorado plan, which is pretty interesting. And it will also tell them, in this case, all of their different plans. It will show them every option they have based off of this is the cost of the plan. So in this case, the cost plan was $696. The employers was paying $487. Their monthly cost is $208, and they were paid bi-weekly, so they actually paid $96. If they wanted to get that plan, they would just click on this apply, details apply. They fill out all their name and address and social security numbers, and then that will be, and they actually sign off. It's an electronic signature on the Section 125 plan, and then that information goes to you to get them enrolled. So that's kind of how that works on that. This is part of that preliminary cost estimate. I feel like I'm jumping around a lot here, but I will go back to that. This one here that says preliminary cost estimate here. This is when you're still trying to figure out how much the employer should pay. In this case, it was 70% of the cost of the lowest cost bronze plan, and it was for the employee only coverage. And we have a census in here of 4 employees, and it did a number of interesting things. It basically said the maximum exposure for this employer, because the people get to pick whatever plan they want, it could be less than this, but the maximum exposure is going to be $1,300 for them. So the employer knows exactly what's going on. It also shows the fees that are in here. So, we want to be transparent about everything that's going on. So the total administration fees, that's our fee of $15 a month per member. And typically the agent's fee usually is, some people charge $0. I usually recommend at least 15. People that we're seeing about $15 to $20. Some people are more. There is some work with ICHRAs. In my opinion, do charge a fee for it because you earn it on things. And it goes through and talks about the total cost of the plan. In this case, we had a number of other family members where they signed up their families on here, and the employer wasn't contributing anything to them. So it shows you the total cost of the plan. You can present this to the employer and say, okay, here's your maximum cost under this thing, and they can feel comfortable with whether they can afford that or not. And then in here, it actually looked at this Magna Hugdis or something, and it said that the plan was unaffordable. She only makes $20,000 a year, and it figured out, even though it's a good deal on the ICHRA, it would be a better deal for her to go to Connect for Health Colorado and waive out of this plan. So in this particular example, it found one person that should probably be on the exchange, and it found one person at 70 that pointed out that they're going to be treated as Medicare, so they'll be reimbursed for their Medicare, whereas their spouse will be covered under a plan. So it's actually, there's a lot to this analysis. So you can, for the first time, people can really look at their group and figure out, where should people be on it. So it's interesting. This is, I hope everybody's hanging in there on this. This is the form section. There's about 1 million forms in here. This is only part of them, but there's the 90-day notice, which is really handy. I'm not suggesting anything different on this, but sometimes you can set up an ICHRA just so that you can get somebody enrolled in the middle of the year, and you can create the 90-day notice. This is a form that I think I have. It's the employee enrollment instructions. You can do it. There's a special 90-day notice for 2025, which can be sent out 90 days ahead of time that just says, hey, we'll get to you when we can. They don't require 90-day notices for new groups. So if it's a new group, you can just go ahead and get them started. If it's an existing group, they're technically supposed to have a 90-day notice, but nobody knows the rates, so they came out with a preliminary 90 days. It's, I don't know, we haven't seen much in the way of enforcement on this because it makes so little sense. But anyway, there's something called a resolution to adopt the ICHRA. You just have to sign that. The ICHRA plan document, you have to, I think you sign that one. ICHRA summary plan description, that one maybe you don't sign, and then section 125 plan you do sign. So all this paperwork that makes it all legal, It's all stored electronically. You can get to it. You don't have to fill your files up with it. Yeah, there's some other things. There's this page goes on quite a while, but there's everything you need to do for compliance is basically on one page. There's also some helpful tips on how to sign people up and stuff like that. So just know the form section is very complete on there. This is what a 90-day notice looks like. It's about 3 pages long. They seem crazy boring. They're actually do give fairly good information. In this case, these people said that they were going to pay 115% of the cost of the lowest bronze plan. Well, that's just a reference plan. What it turns out is that it makes sense because people can relate to that and understand what's going on. But the reality is what the employer is really doing is just giving an amount of money. So it turns out 150% of the lowest bronze plan at the employer zip code is 172.45 for a child that's 0 to 14, and it's 298.69 for a 42-year-old. So that's what's really going on. Employers, even if you do lump sum or whether you do age-based, basically, they're basically saying how much money is the employer going to pay towards the whatever individual plan the employer or the employee picks. And so that's what 90-day notices are about. I think they're a little more interesting. They're about 3 pages, and most people would consider them extremely dry. But they do tell you, they list your name as the employer in there, and they use username and password for the employees to come in and enroll. They tell them how to enroll. The enrollment is tied to your agency, so you are the one who gets this, nobody else, and you are the one that needs to enroll them through your normal channels. Whoever you normally enroll your individuals with is who you do it with. So that's that. This is something that can either be cut and paste or made a PDF of, but this is instructions that can be given to each one of the employees. It's actually a little longer than this. It's about a full-size page. And it walks them through exactly how to get enrolled. And it has a unique number and a password on here. So that's pretty interesting. So they go into this site, which is your website. They put in these username and passwords. It knows the company, and this is Mom's Flower Shop. So it knows Mom's Flower Shop. It has the password, and it will enroll them in the system, and then it will tell you as the broker that you need to get them enrolled. So that's what that's about, a kind of a quick way to enroll people. I'll get into this a little more. This is the IC quotes. This is that username and password that you can use to go in and get a new quote. There's also a spot down here for returning employees. They can use the same username and password, but if they know their email address on file and their date of birth and the last 4 digits of their social security number, it will go out and find them, and it will set them all up for renewal. So that's a person that's already in the system. Instead of having to retype everybody's social security number and everything like that, they can basically just pull it up and then renew their policy through this. So that's what these 2 sections are about. After they get into the system, when they're first setting things up, this is James Bond, they do have the option to put in how much money they think they're going to make for that year, and the system will automatically determine if it's eligible or not, whether they can go to the exchange and get a tax credit plan. This is an example of one that does get a tax credit plan. It comes up here in pink. If you click this button, it will take you over to a set of quotes that are on the exchange with the tax credit. You don't have to add anything or do anything else. So they can either sign up for the ICHRA or they can sign up for the exchange. And all that information comes to you as the broker on it. So you as a broker stay in control of everything on it. This is after you get them enrolled, you end up getting a page that looks like this. And there's kind of a, it's one thing to have them give you the information, which is what this page it goes on, but it tells you everything you need to know to get them enrolled. And then after you get them enrolled, you have to flip them to getting them enrolled. And that's what locks everything in and sets up the payroll and everything so that they know how much to take out of payroll for things. So that's what goes on this page. There's also an automatic email that gets sent out every time they're flipped from pending to enrolled. That will go ahead and tell them that, hey, I'm your broker. If you have any problems, let's say the policy, you get a notice that for some reason it's not getting paid for, let us know. So it kind of keeps them in the loop if they're having problems with it. So this is an example of the payroll. Once you get all the people set up, this will tell the payroll people exactly what they need to take out of their paycheck. So the payroll people will look at it. And, I'm doing fairly good here. So I might take a break here and just ask people, maybe if people, that was an awful lot. The last part, which is really the last third, is just the preliminary rate look for 2025. Do people have some questions that want to jump in?
Hey, Tom.
Yeah.
Kristen Hoff asked a question about scenarios where a group is not appropriate for an ICHRA, where they're just not a good match.
I don't know, Sean. What would be an example of one of those?
I came up with two examples. One is a group, let's say 19 or fewer employees, and they have a traditional small group and they want to keep their traditional small group. Then they're probably not a good candidate for being on an ICHRA. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I guess since you can't mix the two, so if they don't want an ICHRA,
Yeah,
even if it saves them a bunch of money, then they're probably not a good
they
candidate.
have a traditional small group and they want to keep the traditional small group. Then it's very difficult. You would end up with having to meet those 10 and 10 rules for 10 people on the ICHRA, 10 people on the traditional small group. So if they have 19 employees, they're not going to get there.
Right. And a good example of that also would be management versus, you do see a lot of times where you have 3 people in management and you'll have, 20 employees and they say, great, the management wants to keep their traditional small group and then we want to put the rest of the people on ICHRA. And in that case, it can't be done because of that 10 and 10 rule.
Right. And then one other scenario that I came up with was a group of 1099 employees. So if their employees are not W-2'd, but instead are just kind of like a collection of contract employees, that's not appropriate for an ICHRA.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. ICHRA's, turns out employees can have, the 1099 employees can have their own ICHRA. The 1099 employees are not included on it. It's in the rules. Traditional ICHRAs can't cover 1099 employees. They have to be covered on their own. So that's good. But, and this is recorded. I went through it awfully, I'm seeing S corps, so I didn't get into that too much. So for an ICHRA, the owners of the employer, if they're an S corp or an LLP, they can't really be members of the ICHRA. You can quote an ICHRA for them, and you can probably get them enrolled, but really they're not members of the ICHRA, as it turns out. So I'm going to have to look at all these questions here, but anyway, so now I forgot my train of thought on that one, but anyway.
Hey, Tom, I don't want to give any, screen time to essentially a competitor, but there actually is a nice breakdown from PeopleKeep about the owners of S Corps, C Corps, LLCs, every different kind of scenario that you could think of about whether those particular individuals should be on the ICHRA or should be ineligible to be on the ICHRA. So people can look that up to see if they, kind of almost like a flow chart of how to handle those people.
And the simple answer is S corps and LLPs should just get their own individual policies directly and they can write them off directly. C corp people can be part of an ICHRA because they're considered an employee. So that's kind of the gist of it on things.
And obviously, we're only talking about the owners on that, for those. The rest of the employees of any corporation can be on the ICHRA. Is that right, Tom?
It has to do with 2% ownership. If you're an S corp and you have over 2% ownership, then you can't be on the ICHRA. But or LLP. So there are some rules on that. But anyway, are you guys maybe answering those questions in the chat? I just saw some chat questions pop up. So you guys will answer those questions? I appreciate that.
Yeah, okay. Yes, Tom, we will be answering those questions.
Okay. Let me, and if there's ones, we'll have time at the end because this is not, I don't think it should take more than a half an hour to go over the 2025 preliminary rate look here on things. So we'll have some time to talk about things at the end here. But okay, let's go over 2025 preliminary rate look. So Sarah, who I don't know if her camera's on. Oh, she is. She's kind of in the dark there. But anyway, Sarah in our office is the one who gets to read all the filings for this. And so the Division of Insurance has come out with some general numbers. And it was kind of interesting for the 2025 market. They've got the Anthem HMO was, I don't know, they said Anthem in general is a 1.1% increase. And it's kind of really much more complicated than that on the individual market. What happened is the Pathway Essentials and the Mountain Enhanced actually went down. They either didn't hardly increase at all or went down. But the regular Pathway, the one that has UC Health, that one went up quite a bit, maybe 12% or so. So we're seeing this divergence of the Essentials being really economical and the anyway, so the one with UC Health went up. The one without the ones without UC Health, the Mountain Enhanced, the Pathway Essentials, are super competitive for 2025. So you're going to see Anthem starting to look pretty competitive on those things. Cigna was very steady on things, and I know Sheila Pryor, who's great on this, and that is definitely their goal. They're in the competitive group down there, and their rates are very, very nice, and that really helps everybody out because I think 2025 is not going to be too bad a year. I'll get into it more, but I don't think the tax credits are going to change a whole lot. There's been some expansion of carriers. We'll get into it, but there's nothing in here that's going to really screw anybody up for this year. Like we're not losing a carrier. We're not having somebody dramatically change their rates that are going to change the tax credits. And what we're seeing a really large disparity between individual and small group on things, even bigger than last year. So Denver Health, we'll get into. They expanded into some new areas, and Sarah's been this is an older chart from Denver Health, I think, or from the DOI. I think Denver Health, Sarah was saying they've maybe had two increases since this chart came out. Kaiser's pretty doggone stable. They're just kind of right in the hunt with things. Rocky Mountain HMO, they're there. They've got an expansion going on that they've gone into, but they're right at 8.58, and Select Health was at 7.5. They said the total individual market is 5.53. That's kind of a very rough overview of how things look. The small group market, if you kind of see that on average, to see that Anthem went up 14% on the small group market, whereas they only went up 1% on the individual market according to these charts. And again, you have to look at that. But there's 10.97 for part of them. There's Kaiser, which is about 7. This other Kaiser Permanente, maybe that's the select system for them. The United Healthcare Insurance 6.28. United still looks. I think they're going to look just fine in 2025 for group rates. I don't think people are going to be seeing too much changes on that. And then the overall group mark is 8.23%. And we're going to get into that and kind of break it down individually. The other thing that was interesting, they did a chart that shows you the breakout of off-exchange and on-exchange plans. And basically we have the what's interesting is there's a bunch more off-exchange plans. So they came up with more. There's just lots more off-exchange plans. I think most of them fell into Rocky Mountain Health plans, and it has to do with their doctor networks and stuff. But there are plans there are plans offered now off exchange that are not offered on exchange. And I think Sarah, I could let her talk about those, but she'll know better what those are. But it's kind of for the first time we're seeing a divergence between, there's actually more plan options, particularly in the silver level, that you can get off exchange than you can on exchange. So that was kind of interesting. And this is kind of just a general notice for everybody for cost share reduction. So right now that the 94% cost share reduction, the huge lower deductibles, lower max out of pockets, are being applied all the way down to people of 250% FPL, which would normally be 73% cost share reductions, which, as you remember, it's just kind of, it's a little bit of the help. Silver itself normally is 70%. So this is, 73 on there. That's going to go back to 73. So that's going to be one of the bumps in the road that people are going to notice that you're probably going to have to work with people on. If you're talking about people on the exchange come 2025, they, you know, if they were in that 200 to 250% FPL, they're going to see their benefits go way down. So just know that that's happening. The people that are in the 87% CSR range, which is 150 to 200, they're still going to get those better 94% CSR deductibles and coinsurance for one more year in 2025. And then those are going to go away in 2026. So there was a change in max out of pocket limits. It's decreasing from 9450 to 9200, so $250. So slightly helpful instead of having the max out of pockets going up and up and up. And then the expanded APTCs for groups over 400% FPL. I could be wrong on this, but the people are telling me that they think those are going to go away in 2026. So not next year, but the year after that. We may not have those extra people. So that's going to be kind of a shakeup on things. So just kind of know that. We went through each one of the plans a little bit. Elevate, Denver Health, you know, very interesting. They took a bit of a rate increase. They're not always lowest, which is amazing in areas. Anthem beats them sometimes in various areas. They have gone ahead and expanded. So, you know, basically Denver Health, what started, I think, in these four counties, Jefferson, Denver, Adams, and Arapahoe. And then they expanded out here to the Peak Health Alliance, which is all these groups. So they entered these groups in basically Summit County and Durango. And then they turned out this year, for the first time, they're expanding, and this is all with this is with Colorado Doctors Network in this area and various other plans over here, or not Colorado Doctors. This is with Denver Health Network, which they merged with, I believe it was with Centura there, and so they have that up here. But anyway, they expanded into Morgan County, Weld, and Larimer County, Fort Collins for 2025. So they are continuing to expand, which is interesting on things. Rocky Mountain Health Plans, they are also expanding. So these are the two carriers that are expanding areas. See if this makes sense to you. The Colorado Doctors Plan is this part in blue, and they're going to expand over to Logan, Phillips, and Sedgwick. So people like in Sterling, or, well, I'm not sure about Sterling, but I think Sterling's in Logan County. So they will see another player with Colorado Doctors Plan up there. So that's pretty cool. Over here, which is the Valley Network, is going to go Valley Network is going to consolidate with the Sky Network. And so it used to be the Sky Network was up here. Sky Network and Valley Network are going to combine together, and then they're going to expand into all these other counties down here. So that's pretty interesting. And then I don't totally understand this, but I believe Rocky Mountain Health Plans has two doctor networks in these four counties. So there's Moffett, Rio Blanco, Mesa, and Delta, and this is just for 2025. But there's a Monument One plan, and there's I think it's called Monument HMO. So there's two different plan offerings using two different doctor networks in these counties. So, you know, we could be wrong, but that's my understanding of it. So I'll go over this a little bit. Rocky Mountain Valley is expanding into Chaffee, Salach, Custer, Mineral. So anyway, these are all the areas that Rocky Mountain Health Plans is expanding into. The Mountain Sky plans will be mapped to Valley. So it's my understanding, could be wrong, that they won't lose any doctors. They're just basically going to kind of consolidate the two networks. They're going to get rid of Sky Network, and it's just going to get absorbed into the Valley on things. And then the Colorado Doctors Plan is expanding up here into Elbert and Logan, Phillips, and Sedgwick. There's new silver and gold HSA plans for Rocky Mountain Health Plans. So I think there was only one gold HSA plan this year, and it sounds like Rocky Mountain Health Plans will have a gold HSA plans that will be offered off exchange, I guess. And we try to keep track of people that are terminating plans, but terminating the Valley Bronze Value Plan, $9,000 deductible. Sarah would know better, but there were not too many plans that are being terminated, which is nice, which makes your life way simpler on renewals. So not much terminated on things. So this is being one of them, this Valley Bronze $9,000 deductible. Signet is being very stable on things, which is really nice. You're not going to have a bunch of plans you have to switch people around on. The rates are, Signet's been very competitive, and their rates are still competitive. They did go up a little bit in Greeley area, and they actually went down a little bit in the Colorado Springs area. And I believe this is confirmed. I believe they're going to get rid of tobacco rating for Cigna. So that's interesting. So anybody that had a tobacco rating, that will go away on things. Anthem is very interesting. Supposedly an overall increase of 1.1%. But again, we're seeing, and I'll dig into this a lot more, but we're seeing this disparity between essentials plans and the Rocky Mountain, the essentials plans and the regular pathway plans, the Mountain Enhanced plans. The ones that aren't pathway plans with UC Health definitely tend to be the same or went down, and the ones with UC Health went up a fair amount. So that's kind of what happens there. This is just kind of a general comment. This is kind of Anthem on when it's looking at the essentials plans. There have been a kind of a group of carriers that have been pretty competitive. You know, you've got Kaiser, Denver Health, and Cigna have been all pretty doggone competitive. And now Anthem Essentials and Rocky Mountain Health Plans are getting down there. I'll show it to you later, but we're seeing some cases where Anthem is just barely beating Denver Health in some areas, which is interesting in the new areas. And then it's our understanding, that they'll tell us more about this, but you know how Anthem has that kind of unusual system where, you know, if you do urgent care, it's kind of like deductible co-insurance and a $300 copay, which I've never totally understood, or maybe it's deductible copay co-insurance. Anyway, I think they're getting rid of that. So I think they're getting rid of the copay in there. So if it's like urgent care, it's just going to be deductible and co-insurance instead of having an additional copay on top of things. So I personally think that's great. I've never understood that very well. And then apparently Anthem is offering some new silver plans on things. So that's what's happening there.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah.
My friend Sheila Pryor is on our call, and I just wanted to know if Sheila Pryor would like to offer anything else that is new for 2025.
That's a great idea. Hey, Sheila, do you want to jump on by chance?
Hey, yeah, sure. I think you called it all out. Great job. I should hire you to do my job.
No, well, okay. Sheila has been a huge help for us and has been, I'm going to digress a little bit, but Sheila is in charge of ICHRAs for all of Cigna across the United States. She's their main point person. So Kaiser has basically taken on a national task force to, they're just kind of getting involved on ICHRAs. Sheila's been the person to taking care of this the whole time for this. There's some interesting momentum. We're working behind the scenes on stuff to try to make ICHRAs easier. Sheila has been a huge help. Really appreciate the carriers as they kind of start to embrace the ICHRAs. It's been really fun on that. So
yeah, it's definitely at the precipice of something really big. So we all have eyes on it. There's lots of internal conversations, I know, across all of the issuers about how to make more efficiencies in this space as we look at it as a hybrid product. So lots to come there. I will make one quick comment relative to rates. I think that there have been quite a few refilings of late because of the abortion mandate that was just passed. So I think you'll probably see some shakeout in the next couple of weeks too, with some additional rate filings to address that from a pricing perspective.
Right. No, I really appreciate it. Yeah, all the rates we have are just preliminary, and we don't have plan details very well. The one thing, the rates are filed, the plan descriptions are not filed yet. We won't know those until they all break out. We can kind of hint at some of them because they have the same IOS number, so we kind of know what they probably are on things. But the only plan descriptions we really know for sure are the Colorado option plans that have been defined for 2025. So on that, but Sheila, thanks so much for joining us on things.
Of course.
Yeah, but yeah, so that's kind of what's going on with Cigna Anthem, and then Select Health. We didn't see much difference in the Denver metro area, but they seem to be some lowering prices on the western slope. I would just say look at Select Health's rates, and I think they're good in some places and not ultra competitive in other places. They do have UC Health. So what you're really doing with Select Health is you're comparing them, in my opinion, potentially against Anthem pathway system that has UC Health. So those are going to be, and when you compare them to Anthem pathway, they look all right. Anyway, that's kind of what's going on with Select Health. Is the rates are out there. I mean, they're definitely doing great in the game, but I'll be honest with you, I didn't find them overly competitive in some areas. So that's kind of what's going on. And then Kaiser Permanente, kind of another one's very stable. They had about a 7% rate increase. We don't think they have any new plans or terminated plans. And the big thing that we'll get into with ICHRAs with Kaiser is that there's really starting to be a major difference between Kaiser small group and Kaiser individual. The Kaiser individual for the same plan is definitely much less expensive than the same plan is on the small group side. So we'll get into those numbers a little bit on things, but that's kind of a broad overview of everything. We have our we have a website out there if you want to mess around with this, and I'll send out this recording again, but it's test.coloradohealth.com. Again, these are just preliminary, so don't hold us to these. But if you drop down when you get onto it, when you do the individual quotes and you do the 2025, we do have what we think 2025 plans are going to look like. It does calculate the tax credits when it does that. So again, there can be changes in some things on that, but it will give you a ballpark idea. If I had to give you a ballpark idea of what's going on, I would say this is going to be a decent renewal year for most people. Not, we've got some carrier expansions, but not anything too crazy going on with rates. I think ICHRAs actually look good, really good for 2025. But I don't think people are going to be pulling their hair out with, a carrier leaving or something like that. So the other thing I wanted to point out to you, and I kind of alluded to this, when you're set up on ICHRAsystems, you have the employer portal here on things. So this is Mom's Flower Shop again. Note that it will default to 2024. We'll probably have it default to 2025 towards the end of the year, probably mid-October. We'll flip it so that it will start defaulting to 2025, something like that. But right now it defaults to 2024 if you go in there, and so everything's going to look normal to you. If you want to, you can come over here and you can click the button and hit update policy, and it will go to 2025 on things. So when it does that, ICHRAsystems is kind of different. It changes color. The idea is that it really wants to let you know. I mean, the year is right up here. It's 2025, and this one's 2024. So I mean, it's not that hard to figure out, but it's very interesting in that it changes color to let you know, hey, you're on a different year. So you can see we changed it to 2025. It flipped green. This one is back on 2024, so we're back in blue on 2024, but you'll also notice if you go to the enrolled census, if you have an existing group and you want to look at their enrolled census, you now can go out here and click this button for Renew 2025. And I'll get into it a little bit, but it's really a slick system. It remembers all the information for the date of birth and all the people and everything. It remembers that. It remembers what plan they're on in 2024, and then it will show them what they can do for 2025. So it's a real fast way of looking what your renewals look like. You can also do it with your preliminary cost estimates. So right now you can get a feel for what your groups are going to look like for renewal and what the individual employees are going to look like for renewal on things. So that's what's going on. I think this is kind of messed up in between here, but when the employees look at it again, if they're a returning employee for renewals, this kind of, if they are returning, if they put in their email address and their date of birth and their last four digits number, it will remember them and it will show them what their renewal looks like. It will come up and have this all pre-populated. If you do it through the employer portal, it'll be pre-populated. If you do it, if the member goes in and knows their information, it'll be pre-populated. But they do have the ability to put in how much money they think they're going to make for the year. And it's a very valuable feature because it will tell them if they would be better off on exchange, whether it's affordable or not. It's based off the offering they're doing. In this case, I think this is James. Oh, this is Johnny Cash. It shows this is the plan that Johnny Cash is on in 2024. So he apparently is on Rocky Mountain Health Plan, 8,050. The company contributed, the total premium was $649. His company share was $396, and his share was $252. So it says that he only makes $24,000 a year, so it gave him the option to get a plan on the exchange because it's unaffordable. And then down here, when he looks at all his options, it actually points out the option that he was on. And you can now look at this and see what his change is going to be. I think his cost is $167. And anyway, it basically does a great job of doing the renewal. It tells him what plan he's on. If he clicks this, he can just renew right through. So there's a real slick enrollment system for the employees, telling them what their plans are, what their costs are, and what they're going to change to based off of what the plans, what plan they chose. So and I kind of apologize for this. We're not doing too bad on time here, but I didn't know how to present the rates for all the different areas in a very efficient manner. So here's what we did. We looked at a whole bunch of different areas. I think we did Denver, Fort Collins, Colorado Springs, Grand Junction, Durango, and Pueblo, Breckenridge, and Sterling. So we've got 8 different areas. Denver's there again. But anyway, so we have 8 different areas, and we looked at what the cost of a Colorado option plan is on exchange or off exchange. The Colorado option plan off exchange, what the cost of that is compared to what a small group plan would be for that very same plan with the very same carrier. So there's tons of numbers that go behind this. But basically, we're trying to compare apples to apples. It was done for a 40-year-old person. We also looked at tax credits. The tax credits aren't going to change too much from year to year, we think. But if you look at the price things, for the first year ever, we did not see this kind of differential with Anthem in the past. So if you're comparing an Anthem Essentials policy, which you can get as a group policy for the Colorado option or an individual policy direct, there's now about an 18, 19, 20% differential between. So this is the first time we're seeing some really significant movement in Denver for roughly 20% savings by going to an ICHRA. If you factor everything else that goes into an ICHRA, they're probably closer to 30% depending on the group. So then you have Colorado Doctors Plan. So this is United Healthcare's Colorado Doctors Plan versus Rocky Mountain Health plan. So we're comparing, again, exactly the same Colorado option plan, which is not always the best plan to choose, but it's the plan we know is identical. And there's some interesting, anyway, there's about 12 to 16% difference, and Rocky Mountain kind of bumps up their silver plans off exchange. So there's only like 1% help on that. And Kaiser kind of bumps up their plans off exchange, their silver plans. But anyway, Kaiser, this 20% differential between Kaiser individual and small group is still showing, which is fairly amazing. I mean, it's it depends on what's going on. Fort Collins is nuts. You can see with Anthem pathway between identical plans, basically, you could maybe make the pathway on the individual is, I guess this is identical. I mean, they don't have pathway essentials, I don't think, in Fort Collins. So this is identical networks, except I think when you do on the small group side, they consider it an EPO where they can get some out-of-network services, which is not true on the individual side. But still, there's a 35, 36, and 37% price differential in Fort Collins between Anthem individual for the same plan as Anthem group. Again, there's a 15 to 20% difference for United Healthcare and 27 to 26%. So I think Fort Collins is the area of the greatest disparity between individual and small group. Colorado Springs is the area of kind of least. This one looks a little cut off on mine, but it's kind of blasé. It's about 8 or 9% on Anthem. It's still cheaper. It's actually potentially break even, if not a little more, for United Healthcare in Colorado Springs and for the Colorado Doctors Plan. In Kaiser, it's like 17 to 25%, so it's still quite good. And I'll get into this a little bit on why the silver off exchange plans look kind of crazy. But let me see, Grand Junction. Grand Junction, very solid on things, Mountain Enhanced, 13, 15, 16%. But the Navigate, the United Healthcare, over in Grand Junction, if you have a Grand Junction group that's on United Healthcare, you might want to look at an ICHRA on that one for sure, just because of the pretty significant cost differences between the two. Durango, Durango, very solid, you know, Mountain Enhanced, 26, 27, 28. The Navigate, 26, 14, 34. Very, very strong, market for ICHRAs down there with, you know, and these are just the savings and premiums. These aren't the other savings you get by sending some people. If you start sending some people to the exchange, I mean, you get groups with 50% savings and stuff like that. Pueblo was kind of a fair-haired stepchild for a long time, and now they're okay. They're in the hunt. They're okay for ICHRAs. The, you know, 16, 17, 18%. United Healthcare doesn't offer an individual plan in Pueblo, so that's why there's nothing here. And then Kaiser, you know, 1790. So basically, pretty solid look for area on that one. And then Breckenridge, extremely good. Summit, the areas, the mountain areas up there, you know, 26, 27, 34%, very, very strong. And then for the first time, there's going to be a little bit of action up here in Sterling. Sterling has two carriers now, so they have, which will be new for them, to have Anthem Pathway, and then they'll have Colorado Doctors Plan. And you can see it's pretty solid savings with Anthem going in with an ICHRA, and there's some savings with the Colorado Doctors Plan, but at least it's nice that they now have two different doctor networks up there. I was just gonna do this one for a minute. And it's just weird how different carriers treat the silver off exchange plans, which affects ICHRA because that usually you're buying. So the silver off exchange plans are always less expensive than the silver on exchange plans. But if you look at Kaiser, and this is for the Denver area, you can see that their silver off exchange plan, this is off exchange for silver, is more expensive than their gold plan for the Colorado option. These are still Colorado options. So this is a much better plan for this 40-year-old man. But for $413, you can get a much better Colorado option gold plan with Kaiser, and you pay actually an extra $4 for a Colorado option silver plan, and then the bronze plan is pretty reasonably priced at $339. But these three carriers, Kaiser, Select, and Rocky Mountain Health Plans, have all chosen to price their silver off exchange plans higher than their gold plans. So, and that adds some interesting stability. Anthem Essentials, Cigna, and Denver Health have not done that. You can see that basically the silver plans are in between the silver and gold plans. So that was just kind of it's just interesting that different carriers handle silver off exchange plans differently. So that's kind of what's going on with that. And let me see. Okay. So this is some stuff I kind of mentioned with Sheila on there, but asking carriers to get better at letting brokers set up payments and terminate payments for their clients. Cigna has been great with working on us on that, and so has a lot of the other carriers. I'll be honest with you, Kaiser, they're working on things, but in order for ICHRAs to really work, it really helps the broker can set the payment up on behalf of the employer. And it's not too hard to do that. Sometimes it can be a little hard with one of the carriers in particular to get that terminated when the people leave. So that's what's going on. And then better notification of members to let us know if they're having payment issues. So one of the, I don't know, banes, I think, of ICHRAs is you have an employee that you think everything's just fine, and for some reason, who knows what, the payment system, the automatic payment system just stops. And then the employee doesn't tell you that, and all of a sudden you've got an employee with a company that's not covered. So we've been taking some actions on that. We're asking the carriers to see if they can not only reach out to the employees, but also the agent. If they could let us know, maybe on their final third notice that says that this policy is being terminated, it would help us to make sure the employee stays enrolled, and it would be good for the carrier too. So it's kind of a win-win. Doesn't look like it's a real easy thing to do for them, so probably won't happen immediately. We also have another new email notification that you may have noticed for the active people that when you flip somebody from pending to enrolled, so you got their application, but now you need to enroll. Once that's done on ICHRAsystems, it sends the member a second email, just kind of saying, hey, you're enrolled. But also, if you see any problems with payments, let us know. So that's going on. And we also think that when you finally contact the member, if you send them out an email or something, say, hey, we got you all signed up, just remind them that if they have any reason that there's payment problems, to let you know what's going on so that we kind of avoid these issues with non-payment. And then we've got asking agent. Oh, so this is one that Sheila asked on this one is asking agents to identify a member as being enrolled in ICHRA, even when in open enrollment. So open enrollment, I'm guilty as anybody. I've just enrolled people and never worried about telling them it was an ICHRA because it's open enrollment. Sheila's comment is if you would go ahead and let us know it's an ICHRA, and it might even involve you having to send in a 90-day notice with it. Hopefully they can maybe look past that. It really helps them understand how many people are in ICHRA. Part of the problems that carriers are having right now is that everybody goes, yeah, ICHRAs are great and everything, but they have no idea how many members are on ICHRA because only the people that are enrolled mid-year are identified as ICHRAs because everybody else uses open enrollment. If you go ahead and tell me you're ICHRA, I will tell you in particular with Sheila is that a lot of the carriers are identifying them as ICHRAs and they'll give you extra leeway on getting people enrolled and stuff like that. They treat you better when they're in ICHRA. So I think it's well worth doing. Something we're just about finished with is we're just going to provide a spot for quick links for agents to enroll. So every carrier has, and we're going to come out with a video on this, but every carrier has a one-line link where you can click on it, and it's just a fast way to get in there and enroll people under your agency. So every carrier has the ability to, well, I say every carrier, I think Denver Health does not. You have to go through Denver Health, and then you have to go into their main portal and then pick yourself as the agent. Theirs works a little differently. Everybody else has a link that automatically connects you to the enrollment. And we're going to set that up just so when it's time to enroll people, it's just a little bit faster. Just big picture topics, use Colorado Connect for direct Colorado options. So Cigna and Anthem, if you get somebody who wants a Colorado option plan direct for certainly Cigna, I think it's all 3 metal levels. I think Anthem is just gold. You can either, the only way to do it with Cigna is through Colorado Connect. And you guys know Colorado Connect is kind of the non-exchange side of Connect for Health Colorado. And it's tricky because once you set up an account in Colorado Connect, you can't use that same email address for Connect for Health Colorado. So it's not a perfect solution, but we definitely use that and it's worked well for us. And for Cigna and Anthem, all the other carriers will let you enroll all of their plans through their direct links. And then here's a tip, just a general tip. When setting up autopay, use a readily available employer name, probably the person you are setting it up for, as the checking account contact information. So when we ask you for the banking information, they usually need a name, they need the routing number and the bank number, the routing number. And they need a name usually. If you can use a name of somebody that you can get a hold of on there with it will help you out when it comes time for when the person leaves. A lot of times the carrier will say, well, I want to disconnect the auto pay for this because that person is left on the ICHRA. And they'll say, well, who are you? And if you're not the member, which sometimes they'll insist it being on the member, which is a problem if the person's leaving and they're kind of cranky, you can basically say, oh, I'm the account holder. And you can just say you're that person and you'll be okay as far as being able to get them taken care of. You can get them disconnected on behalf of the employer. So that's just a tip. I think I got only 1 or 2 more slides, maybe one. This is an example of one of the emails you guys will start seeing. There's 2 of these coming out. This is a test email, but basically we're sending this out every time a person enrolls in a plan and when that person they actually apply for a plan, and then when they get enrolled, they get sent an email that looks something like this, just reminding them to let us know if they're getting any notice of cancellations on things. And I think that's it. I think I'm going to open it up for talks on things, and I'd be happy to go over it. I know this is an awful lot to do in this period of time, but feel free to reach out, and maybe we can go over some of those questions you guys that came in.
Hey, Tom, just really quickly, I did want to bring up a tip on there, and this is kind of a tip. It's more like just want to make sure that all agents are aware. Jim Moses and Denver Health are rolling out a new ICHRA payment platform. And so for any agents that have ICHRA members that have Denver Health, you definitely want to be speaking with Jim Moses to establish that auto pay for those groups.
And there was one other thing we kind of forgot. Denver Health actually now has a broker portal. They never used to have a broker portal, and now they have a broker portal. So, did I have Denver Health on here? Yeah, they have a new broker portal. So that's kind of a big deal for them. So they've expanded in territories and they now have a broker portal. The commissions are kind of interesting. You have to let Jim kind of know how many plans you sold and he'll send you a check for them. It's a little bit unusual, but that's the way it works on things.
Also, that ICHRA payment platform is strong for removing an employer's funding source behind a ICHRA supported policy when the employee departs.
Yeah. Are there any questions that came in chat that we should figure out? Let me see if I can find those.
There was some of the agents were asking about paper apps versus Colorado Connect for the Anthem Colorado Option Gold plans. I said that I have heard of other agents succeeding with doing paper apps for Anthem Colorado Option Gold. Quite frankly, doing a Colorado Connect enrollment platform for those plans, I can certify that does succeed. I can't necessarily guarantee that a paper app will succeed.
Yeah, there's definitely split on that. Some people use the paper apps, and we actually have them in the form section. So we try to help people out on that. We do have the paper apps. We kind of think COCO, Colorado Connect, is just the easier way to do it in the long run. The problem with COCO is they don't automatically renew. If you do them on COCO, is my understanding. Whereas if you do the paper apps, I believe they will automatically renew. So there's
you're correct on that.
Yeah, there's something to be said for paper apps. I just think it's like 18 pages, isn't it, or something? It's an insanely long paper app.
Yep, yeah. Could be like 26.
Yeah, it's wildly long, but on those things. But yes, I was looking through chat a little bit. Sounds like everybody got their questions answered on chat on things. I'm just kind of curious. What do you guys think about? Was this too much at one time? Should we split it up a little bit more, or what do you think? I know it's
Tom, I think you did great.
Okay. All right. Well, if nobody else has any questions, I'm going to let you have 20 minutes of your life back here on things. But I'll stick around and we'll be happy to answer any questions. And you can always call us. I'm going to put it back to give us a call. We're always got all the way out of it. We're always happy to talk about things on that. So and help you out on anything. We're kind of here to do that on things. And we'll be having another class that's kind of on advanced ICHRAs that will be coming up in 2 or 3 weeks or something like that. On that, we'll also know the rates better by then because, like Sheila said, they are changing a little bit, I guess, because of that abortion mandate. But on things. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming. All right. Okay.
Thank you, Tom.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Tom. Hey, Tom, this is Karen up in Summit County. Do you know if United Healthcare Rocky Mountain Health Plan is keeping that gatekeeper for referrals in place up in their Colorado option plans up here?
Oh, that's a great question, Karen. I know what you're talking about on that. I do not know. That's certainly the area where they're merging the two.
Yeah, and they're merging the sky with the valley. So I'm just curious. They don't have that in place for the Colorado option plans with the doctor plan down in the Front Range. And so I was just wondering if you had heard about that going away.
I didn't. It's a super good question. We'll definitely do it too, but we just need to reach out probably to Estella.
Yeah, I'll reach out.
Yeah.
It's curious, with their rates not being as competitive, that's one reason to move everybody off of those plans because it's such a pain. So.
Yeah, that would be a good thing to find out about. No, I see your point. I guess we'll have to look where they were, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Rocky, I was curious. I didn't get into the rates too much on various things, but Anthem is definitely looking fairly good. And you know, they were cheaper by $1 or $2 than Denver Health in some areas, which seemed amazing to me. So
Yeah. All right. Well, more to come. Thanks so much. Good presentation. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you, Karen. Appreciate it. Okay. Well, very good. I'll probably end this one. They'll be recording and I'll send the recording out if people want to kind of look at on what's going on with things here on that. Okay. All right. So thanks everybody for joining. And again, if you have any questions, let us know. Okay. All right. Well, talk to you later.